over at BangTheBook.com. We are your one-stop shop for sports betting news and information. I have 2 more teams left to do from a season betting tips and a players to watch standpoint in Major League Baseball. Those will be posted here today. Then all 30 of those will be up in anticipation for Thursday's opening day for everybody except for the Mariners and the Athletics, of course. Lots of injury concerns, lots of injury considerations right now out there in Major League Baseball. So keep up to date on the latest. And, obviously we'll probably get lines sometime Thursday or Tuesday after. So hopefully you can get a chance to check out those betting tips. And, of course, check out my MLB season win total previews as well. You can find those on Amazon with that Kindle ebook. You can find the PDF at BangTheBook.com, or you can find them in the individual articles at the website as well. Also on a daily basis over there, Kyle Hunter's daily college basketball picks, Parker Michaels' daily NHL picks. Both of those seasons kind of winding down a little bit here now. Obviously, when college basketball is done, Kyle will be done with that article, but Parker will go throughout the NHL playoffs. So still a lot of that left to go, but the regular season, just about 2 weeks left of that in the NHL. Also over there, we're covering the NBA, college basketball, NASCAR, soccer, tennis, UFC, you name it, we've got you covered over at BangTheBook.com. Make sure you're checking out our Bang the Book YouTube page as well. Lots of good videos going up there on a daily and weekly basis from myself, from Brian Blessing, from Kyle Hunter. You want to make sure that you're checking those out. And, of course, as you know, this and every edition of Bang the Book Radio presented by our friends over at DSI Sportsbook. BTB and the number 200 is that promo code. 100% deposit match bonus for the Sportsbook up to $500. 100% deposit match bonus for the live casino up to $500. At BetDSI, it's only a game until you bet it. So real quickly here, I want to recap what we're doing with the shows this week. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next week as of yet because it's really just the Final Four on Saturday and then the National Championship game on Monday. I will be doing the Bettor's Box, of course. What I'm thinking I'm doing here this week, obviously we have Kyle Hunter and Brad Powers on today's show. Tomorrow we'll have Brian Blessing and Rolf Michaels. Wednesday we'll have Tony George and Wes Reynolds. Thursday I will do the Bettor's Box for opening day. And then Friday we'll have Christian Pina's UFC segment. And if we need more time with Kyle Hunter, or if we just want to revisit everything on the college basketball side, we'll do another segment with Kyle on Friday. And then next week, probably do the Monday Mailbag and the Bettor's Box on Monday. We'll do Brian Blessing or Kyle Hunter on Tuesday, maybe Kyle Hunter on Wednesday, and then the Bettor's Box on Thursday. So things will be a little bit different here as we go forward, but not as much to talk about. Most of our guests don't really do too much with the NHL or the NBA. Mostly looking at the college sports side of things and the NFL. So next week, we'll change things up quite a bit. We will be doing, as we go throughout the spring and summer here, I'll be doing the Bettor's Box twice a week on Monday and Thursday. I'll have Brian Blessing to do golf events, horse racing events, stuff like that. We'll do some one-off segments here. I'm sure once we get deeper into the college football season the college football off season, get some more season win totals, games of the year, stuff like that. We'll do some one-off segments with Brad or Rolf Michaels or Kyle Hunter. We'll try to get everybody still involved in the mix here. But, look, I'm a workhorse. Everybody knows that. I'm a very high-volume guy at BangTheBook.com. I could use a little bit of a breather as well. This is an industry that is unrelenting, to say the least. And, with doing baseball on a daily basis, I don't get a break necessarily. But to get a little bit of a break from the show is a nice respite. I mean, we've been hitting it hard, except for when I got pneumonia. We've been hitting it 5 days a week since early August. So, we've been covering a lot of stuff here on the shows, been asking a lot of my guests here, especially during the college basketball season. So it's nice to allow everybody to take a little bit of a step back. But again, I'll still be doing the Bettor's Box Monday, Thursday, including the Monday Mailbag on Mondays. And then we'll be doing some one-off stuff. And we will do UFC segments with Christian Pina every week. That's part of the deal that we have with him. So Bang the Book Radio is not going away. We just won't be on as frequently as we usually are. But, as we're sort of rounding out the college basketball season here, my heartfelt thanks and appreciation to all of the listeners that tune in on a daily basis, to all of my guests that join me week after week after week. It's been a lot of fun. We've learned a lot. We've done a lot. We've talked about a lot. And we'll keep doing that here throughout the spring and summer. And you know what? August isn't that far away. So then we'll be starting to talk college football at that point in time as well. So lots of stuff going on. Definitely so many things going on here. All right, so let's get into the Monday Mailbag segment, and got a couple of questions about Purdue futures here. And the Purdue Boilermakers are in the Sweet 16. Matt Painter's team getting to that point here. And look, for these futures questions, again, I'll talk about this as I always do, a challenge to give you exactly the right direction that you want to go, because, we don't know how much you put on the line. We don't know what your risk tolerance is. We don't know what your goals are with some of these bets. But oddly enough, I've got two questions about Purdue futures here. One from Dalen, and I apologize, Dalen, if I got your name wrong here. He's got a half unit on Purdue at 90-1, a solid price there. And then I've got a question from Paul, who's got Purdue at 120-1. And I have seen a couple other people out there that have Purdue at 120-1. And you're actually in a pretty advantageous situation here, because as you look at the line for Thursday's game, Pinnacle's showing a pick'em, a lot of places showing Tennessee -1. So it's a very easy hedge for you with the Tennessee money line in that -110, -115 range. So that's not bad at all. Obviously you want to consider cutting into that future a little bit here at this point in time. Now, obviously Purdue has a very good chance of winning this game. The line would indicate that with virtually a pick'em situation. And the interesting thing about this is that given the other side of the South region here with Virginia and Oregon, yes, both Purdue and Tennessee are an underdog to Virginia. But when you talk about totals in Virginia games in that, 125, 128 range, they won't be that substantial of a favorite here against Purdue. So you're going to get a cheap hedging price in the Elite Eight round as well if Purdue is able to knock off Tennessee. So for those that have big prices here, awesome. Good for you. Congratulations. Glad you got to this spot. Now, there are a lot of ways that you can take this. You sort of have to try and figure out, how much do I want to try and extract here? How much do I expect Purdue to beat Tennessee? And then subsequently, if Purdue wins, how much do I expect Purdue to beat Virginia? Because that will be a pricier hedge for you. Now, of course, Oregon could win that game, and Purdue could be favored, and you could be free-rolling that game with Oregon at a plus money price. The question here is, how far do you think Purdue can go? And if you think Purdue doesn't match up well with Tennessee, well, you probably want to be a little bit more aggressive with this fade. Now, of course, Purdue looked great against Villanova, a dominant performance there against the Wildcats. What does that do for their perception here? I mean, do we get into a situation where maybe Purdue winds up being favored? You want to watch the market here. I don't think that you have to rush to do anything in this situation, because I don't think that Purdue will be that big, or I don't think that Tennessee will be that big of a favorite. So your hedging price, probably -115, maybe at the most -120 or -125. So, with that in mind, I mean, this is a pretty straightforward hedge here. It's just a matter of how much you want to cut into it. For example, if you've got a half unit on Purdue at 90-1, do you want to turn that into 5.5 units to win 45 units by taking, a 5-unit position on Tennessee? Well, if you do that, keep in mind that, Virginia probably going to be a 6-7 point favorite against Purdue in that game. Then at that point, your Virginia hedge, -250, -275, something like that. Well, then all of a sudden cutting 5 units into it, then you've got 15 units in there to win 45 units. Then at that point, you're only doing it with a 3-1 ticket. It seems unlikely that Purdue would win that game, but it certainly is a possibility. So you want to take a very careful approach here, because if Purdue wins this game, and virtually it is a coin flip at this point in time, then you've got a bigger hedge to worry about against Virginia if it gets to that point. So again, you have to decide what it is that you want to get out of this future. And I know I've got some people saying, I'd like to get back 2 or 3 units. Dalen mentions he'd like to get at least a few units here off of this future. Well, that's the question you have to answer. I think you really spend the next couple of days deep diving into that Purdue versus Tennessee matchup. And then at that point in time, decide how much you want to hedge based on how the teams match up, based on the fact that, really neither team has had a whole lot of success in the NCAA tournament with its respective coach, but you're in the catbird seat. You've got some leverage here to play this future and get a good profit out of it. But like I said, I would focus on just that game if you have a Purdue future, unless you've got other futures live, obviously. But specifically talking about this Purdue future, dig as deep as humanly possible into this game. See how these teams match up. See how Tennessee fared in a game where maybe they had to take away one star player like a Carson Edwards. Really, really dig deep into this game and see what you think. Right now you've got Bart Torvik basically saying this game is a coin flip, Purdue minus 0.3. What about the venue? Do you think that the venue is going to play in favor of a certain team? With this game in Louisville and, the rivalry factor there against Tennessee, will this be a pro-Purdue crowd? Will Purdue have a little bit of a crowd edge in this game? Will that help them at all? Do you think that will help them at all? Do you think that that's baked into the line at all? Those are all things that you want to consider here when you deep dive and study this game. Now, I'll talk more about it with Kyle Hunter in the next segment, but, like I said, for right now, I don't think you have to rush. I think you take your time carefully with this game. You fine-tooth comb through everything you possibly can, and then decide, do you want to put 3 units on Tennessee, hedge that way, get back, if you've got a half unit on Purdue, get 2.5 units profit? Does it have to be, 3.5, 4 units on Tennessee? Decide what makes the most sense for you at that point in time. But the luxury here is that you've got a very good number on Purdue. You've got them in a spot where you can start hedging. You've got a coin flip game, and you've got some time to actually dig in and break down this game. All right, question from Munsif here, and I actually really love this question. It says, I don't have an exact question, but could you talk a little bit about how you determine what is a 3%, 2%, or 1% play? I feel like the Kelly criterion output on play size is always higher than I feel comfortable doing, especially with an everyday sport like baseball. I don't think I should be risking a huge percentage of my bankroll every day. This is a good question because, I use a lot of sabermetric analysis, but I'm not a modeler. What modelers can do with their models, I guess I would say, is that they can determine exactly what they perceive their edge to be relative to the line. Now, because I don't make my own numbers for baseball, because I'm just mostly looking at it, from a game-by-game matchup standpoint, I don't have my exact edge in front of me. So really for me, it's largely about confidence. It's just about how much I like a play, how many intangibles I think are in there, how high variance the game actually is. If there are some things that I'm not quite certain of, I'll make it a 1% play or a 2% play. If it's a play that I really like, if it's a pretty standard play for me, then it's a 3% play. And if it's a play I absolutely love, then it becomes a 4% play. So, a lot of it is based on my risk tolerance, about my confidence in my reads about that team, how much of a feel I think I have for that team or that particular situation. I wish I had a better answer. But, because I don't quantify my exact edge when it comes to baseball, because I'm not producing my own lines, I can't use something like Kelly, because for Kelly, you'd want to know your exact edge. And the differentiation between 1%, 2%, and 3% is, again, largely just about my read on the game, about how strongly I feel about the game, about how much line equity I think there is. It's just kind of a process that I work through in my own mind. So, I understand that that's not the best of answers, and it's certainly a little bit concerning going into, a gray area like that. But, I think that it's one of those things where I just have a feel for how much I want to put out there on this game and what expectations I have for that game. And also, if it's something like, let's say the lines move 15 or 20 cents on me, I still like the game, but not as much as I would have. Well, then maybe it becomes a 1 or a 2% play at that point. If I would have gotten the better number, it would have been a 3% play. And usually I'll get the best number personally, but, for the purposes of the article, with not being able to cover the overnights and stuff like that, at that point, I'm not going to recommend a 3% play on games that move 15, 20, or 30 cents. That's not fair to the readers. That's not fair to really anybody out there. So at that point, sometimes if I still like something, it becomes a 1% play, or maybe the line has moved for the full game, hasn't adjusted for the first 5, and I'll say, all right, this is a 2% look for me. Would have been a 3% play if we had some more line equity in it. But again, because of the timing of the article, and I know Kyle deals with this with his college basketball piece as well, it's hard to put something out there where a line has moved a lot. And it's hard to put something out there for a full unit size if something has moved a lot. So that's also a determining factor with going from 3% to 2% or 3% to 1%, something like that. I'll try to elaborate a little bit more on that in my daily picks and tips piece, but Munsif, love the question. You'll love that you always send things in, that you've been a very loyal listener of the show. Thank you so much for that. Okay, you can check out my MLB picks and tips piece every day over at BangTheBook.com, beginning here on Thursday. Make sure you send in your Monday mailbag questions for next week at Skating Tripods on Twitter or Adam at BangTheBook.com.